Missed an episode of your favorite podcast? Choose from over a decade of content in our archives, not just the latest episode. All free at GCNlive.com.
This is your call to action. Get prepared, America. Economy, survival, energy, disasters. This is USAPrepares.com. Informative radio, educational radio. Interact now by emailing instructor@USAPrepares.com or text at 434-390-7953. Class, please take your seats. Now, your instructor, Vincent Finelli.
Everyone all set, cocked, locked, blissed? Now set correctly to USA Prepares. Thank you for being in class with us. Alex is engineering the broadcast at GCN in Minnesota. Dr. Shealy's with us. Dr. Shealy, are you blissed?
Yes.
Me too. Dr. Shealy, anything that you would like to share with us before we get underway today?
No, I'm open.
Okay. So, over the weekend, there was an electricity outage in the United States. New York to Michigan, hundreds of thousands of people were without electricity. We predicted this on Friday. We said the temperatures would hit 110, or would feel like 110, and that there would be electrical outages. Well, 800,000 people were without electricity because of the heat. So here are a couple thoughts, and actually there's a medical question at the end of all this. So in New York City, Con Edison, which actually stands for Consolidated Edison, the electric utility company, shut off electricity to about 50,000 people. And they did that so more wouldn't lose electricity. What happened is the electrical power grid in New York City could not handle the load. Why is that? Well, because of the heat and people turning on their air conditioning units. And if you think about it, it was during the weekend. So most of those big office buildings were shut down. Minimal electricity usage in those big office buildings, those skyscrapers. People were home. But what's happening is we're using more and more electricity every day. We have more electric vehicles coming online. Our electric grid is old. Some of it is over 100 years old. And it was never designed for air conditioning, all the refrigeration that we have, the freezers, the portable air conditioning units, the window units, the whole house air conditioning units, the building air conditioning units. People used to use fans. Well, not so much anymore. So if you look at what we're doing, we're using more electricity than ever before because of things like escalators, elevators, subways. Subways are electric powered. Lighting, security systems, electric bridges, those drawbridges that rise and lower, heating systems, air conditioning systems, water treatment systems, sewage treatment systems, water well systems, entertainment. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. And of course, mobile applications on our cell phones and computers and televisions. Put it all together, we're taxing the grid all the time. So adding more electric vehicles is like the worst possible thing we can do to the grid, because it's going to be harder and harder to put more wires on the same poles and in the same conduit underground. And what happens is when there's more electricity running through a wire, the wire gets hot because of resistance. It literally gets hot. So the reason that power lines are up in the air between poles is because the heat can be dissipated by the air. They literally are hot. You can burn yourself with them. As a matter of fact, they can start fires. So when we overload the wires, they get really, really hot and can start fires. So I just wanted to share that's the kind of thing that was happening in New York City, from New York City to Michigan, where 800 people were without electricity. And it was shut down on purpose to many of them. And Con Edison, Consolidated Edison, literally shut down the voltage or reduced the voltage 8%. Now, what does that mean? Well, electric motors have to have a high starting voltage in order to get the motor started. It takes 3 times the current to start, 3 times the current, not voltage, current, to start an electric motor as it takes to run an electric motor. Now, what's an electric motor? A well pump, an air conditioning unit, a freezer, a refrigerator, a fan, anything that has a motor. Okay? It takes 3 times the current to start that. Well, they reduced the voltage 8%. So what does that mean? Well, typically voltage is 120 volts for most AC outlets. That would bring it down to 110 volts. If it started at 110 volts, it would bring it down to 101 volts with an 8% reduction. That means that you're right on the threshold of just being able to start an electric motor. So if you have an air conditioning unit, it's so hard on those air conditioning units to try to start at 101 volts compared to 120 volts. It's rough on them. They get really hot and they wear out faster. So there's a lot of things to be concerned about when there's an electric power voltage reduction. So I just wanted to share that with our class. So the next question, Dr. Shealy, do you have any comments about what I just said?
Yeah, I do seriously question, especially, in fact, I don't question, I think the most horrible thing I ever considered is driverless electric cars. I think that is the greatest waste of consciousness in history.
Mm-hmm.
But, and I don't know about electric cars in general. You know, interestingly, I remember electric cars. In 1938, we had electric cars.
Right. The first electric car that made the production line, I believe, was 1906, and I saw it.
I remember one of my days having one.
Mm-hmm. And you know, an electric car is an okay thing. The problem with an electric car is we want all kinds of conveniences with it. We want air conditioning, power steering, power brakes, power windows, entertainment systems, navigation systems, communication systems, you know, computers to look forward, backward, left, right. All kinds of electronics are running in these electric cars, and they don't have the capacity to store the energy that you would store in a gas tank on a gas-powered vehicle or a diesel-powered vehicle. And I got to tell you, if I hooked up, if I had an electric tractor like a Tesla, I wouldn't go more than 30 feet with a 15-foot batwing mower. I'd have to charge it every 30 feet. And that's because it just doesn't have the energy density. So electricity, while people think it's clean, it's not clean because it's really dirty where you generate that electricity. And there are losses in the pipeline, if you will, which is really the electric wires overhead and the transformer. So the farther you get away from the power generation source, the more you have lost the electricity that was generated. So you lose energy during the generation of electricity, you know, to heat, steam, pollution, and then you lose it in the conversion of high voltage to lower voltage with the transformers, then you lose it in the power lines, and then you lose it all the way along. And then when you go to charge your electric battery in your electric car, you lose, there's losses there. And then when you use the electric motor, there are losses there, and there's friction losses in the transmission and so forth of the electric power to the wheels. And there are tire losses and energy losses. So everywhere you look at it, there are losses, wind resistance. So it really is not totally ideal, unless maybe you have your own solar generation system, which is non-polluting once the system is installed. Then it's probably okay. But you're still not going to go more than typically 100 miles. Now, for me, that doesn't make sense because I would run out of electricity before I got home if I went to Springfield. You know, so if I left the farm and came back, I'd run out of electricity. And I'd have to say to people, well, wait a minute, how much do you weigh? Because I'm going to Springfield, Missouri from the farm, and I don't think I can take the extra weight. So, you know.
I think you amplified my concerns about electric cars adequately.
I mean, I have some friends that, you know, weigh more than I do, and, you know, I'd look at the seats and I'd look at them and I'd say, I'd love to take you, but we'll never make it back. You know, we'll get back, you know, almost home. We'll have to walk the last 20 miles or push the car the last 20 miles. I mean, that's really what we're looking at, Dr. Shealy. The infrastructure's not there. And people are not going to want to trickle charge their electric cars. You know, they're not going to want to plug them in and say, you know what, We'll hook it up to our solar system, and like mid next week, it'll be charged so we can go to Springfield. They're not going to want that. They're going to want. Well, that's what's happened to us. We've become lazy. We've become demanding. We want it now. So I guess the whole point of what I was saying is we are totally dependent on electricity. There are people on dialysis machines. There are people on respirators. There are people in hospitals. All hospitals are totally dependent on electricity. Lights go out, there'll be panic in a hospital. So what we need to really do is focus on reducing our consumption. We don't have to have the TV running for background noise. We don't need that. We really don't. We don't need to have the computers running 24 hours a day, whether we're in front of them or not. We don't need to have constant communication with the cell towers. We really don't. We can live a simpler life and pollute less and use less and have less electromagnetic radiation surrounding us. So I'm concerned about all this, and because we are so addicted to electricity, that's our Achilles heel. Absolutely, it's our Achilles heel. What happens if electricity stops in New York City? The subways stop. So nobody goes to work. And that may not be a bad thing, but people will die from the heat. So the medical question that I had at the end of this long run-on sentence is, what do we do about the heat? What do we do if the air conditioning doesn't work, if the fans stop running, if the best thing that we can do is either open the window or go outside or sit under a tree? What do we do to prevent ourselves from dehydrating and dying as a result of the heat? That's, I guess, the question.
Well, I put in a little diesel generator in 1999, and I've had to use it only once. And I don't know how long it would last if we had a real, long-standing outage. But
Well, yeah, and I have a diesel generator here at the farm, and we've got solar power. But the plan is solar will work great, but that means the sun has to shine, and the sun's not always shining, especially at night. The sun never shines at night. I mean, and the funny thing about that is that's when you really want electricity, because you can't see where you're going because it's dark. So, solar power is really kind of a neat thing, but when the sun doesn't shine, you want a diesel generator. But the problem with diesel generators is they use fuel. And how much do they use? Well, diesels use less than gasoline-powered, which use less than propane-powered generators. But our diesel generator will burn about a half a gallon of diesel fuel an hour. So if we ran it 24 hours a day, that'd be 12 gallons a day. Now, how many people have 12 gallons? Let's say it was just a gas generator. How many people would have 12 gallons of gasoline stored, in their garage or wherever? How many? Not so many, right? Most people probably have a 5-gallon gas can, maybe 2, and on average, you might have 5 gallons, halfway between empty and completely topped off. 10 gallons completely topped off, 0 empty, so the average would be 5 gallons. So I figure the most that a typical person would have is 5 gallons. So that means 5 hours of a gasoline generator. 5 hours. That's a big problem. So through hydration, Dr. Shealy, my question is Gatorade, Powerade, water, tea, coffee, soda. What is number 1, number 2, maybe number 3 on your list of what do we do when the weather is like this? Because there's going to be more and more and more of this. This is just the top tip of the iceberg because we're using more electricity. So how do we stay hydrated? What's number 1, 2, and 3 on your list? We'll be back with Norm Shealy. Class Dr. Norm Shealy is with us, medical doctor. And if you'd like to go to his website, normshealy.com, normshealy.com. And we're talking about this massive power outage from Michigan to New York City, including Milwaukee. And so many people were without electricity, and they were hot. Hot because it felt like 110 degrees outside. And if you're in an apartment building, it would feel like much higher temperatures because your refrigerator would be running if you had power. If you didn't, you were just you're just cooled by the breeze. Whatever might come in your window and go out, maybe another window. So, Dr. Shealy, what do we do about what's number 1, 2, and 3 in your mind about staying hydrated, not dying from the heat?
Well, the most important thing is to have real water, of course, and that is not city water. at least filter your water to get rid of the fluoride, because otherwise you're getting a double whammy poison. And beyond that, I think just learn to detach. You know, I'm one of those few people who likes heat. I mean, 100 degrees to me is pleasant. So, and I've been in Phoenix many times when it's 112, and I don't mind that at all.
I was thinking about you yesterday and the day before. We were cooking here at the farm. When I say cooking, I mean we were cooking. And
well,
we were so hot.
So it was even hotter.
It was pretty hot here, and we'd go in the shade, and then we'd go out and work, and then we'd get back in the shade, and that's what we did. And we were soaking wet, literally soaking wet, trying to, work on the equipment here at the farm outside. And I would say at best we might have been 25% effective for the day, compared to a normal day, because it was just so hot. It was hot everywhere, and inside, outside, and but I'm very concerned. So one of the things that I wanted to ask you about was Gatorade. Now, Gatorade is this liquid, or you can buy it in a powder. And let me read the ingredients, and let me and the class know what your thoughts are about Gatorade as a hydrating.
To me, it's junk. Okay. It's no better than Coke.
That's what Joey says. Yeah. Okay, but in case the class wants to know, it has sucrose, which is sugar, right? Dextrose, which is sugar. Then it has citric acid, which I guess that's okay, right? It has natural and artificial flavors. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Fair. No, that's not good at all.
Citric acid's not good?
Well, it's not natural. If you didn't get it out of an orange or a lemon or a lime, it's an artificial thing.
Okay. And they say Gatorade has natural and artificial flavors. Then it says salt sodium citrate. How about that?
Junk.
Potassium phosphate. Monopotassium phosphate.
That's okay.
Right. Gum arabic.
Fair.
Glycerol ester of rosin. Glycerol ester of rosin.
Well, I can't see a good reason for it, but I don't know a good reason against it, so I don't know.
Okay. And then sucrose, acetate, isobutyrate.
More junk.
And then to top it off, yellow 5.
Junk.
Yellow 5 dye. Yep. Okay. Now, Joey said something to me. He said, hey, Vin, why don't you try this? Said, Himalayan salt, pink salt, in filtered water with a little bit of real honey. And I did it, and it was great. What do you think about that?
I think it's good. You know what my favorite would be? Lemongrass tea. Lemongrass is one of the best of the natural herbs.
Okay, so when you get lemongrass, or you make lemongrass tea, do you grow lemongrass? Do you buy lemongrass? Do you have it in a tea bag?
Well, I buy dried tea, but you can grow it here.
Okay. Lemongrass tea. Okay. And do you put honey in that, or do you is just
I like it plain.
Filtered water?
Yeah, just water. Just water.
How about Moringa tea? Have you experimented with that? 'Cause I'm looking at these.
Well, that's a bit stronger, but that'd be my favorite of all.
Okay. Let's talk a little bit more about that when we come back. Class Dr. Norm Shealy is with us. NormShealy.com, NormShealy.com, medical doctor. Dr. Shealy, you mentioned Moringa, the Moringa trees, and so I immediately bought some while we were on the air.
And I have 50
of
2 weeks
them ago.
Growing.
Yeah.
Thanks to you.
I'm delighted. Well, what I did was I bought 3 plants, and I figured one of them would probably not survive, so I got 3. I thought we needed 2. So I bought 3, and they arrived in the U.S. mail, and 2 of them were just too small. So only 1 of the 3 survived. So I do not recommend that you buy Moringa trees, these little saplings. They show them much bigger than they are when they get put in the box to ship to you. So on the internet, they show them really, much taller than they really are. So 2 of them didn't survive. As hard as I tried to get them to survive, one of them is doing okay. And what I did was I bought some Moringa seeds on the internet, and I shared them with our close friends, and they're doing well. So what I did, Dr. Shealy, was I got one of those little low trays with a cover, plastic trays, clear top, and put paper towel down, folded it twice, put the seeds on top of that, put some water on that, put another layer of paper towel on top, and left it for a few days where it stayed moist. And they popped out really fast, and we planted them in some garden soil. And they're doing really, really well. So how did you plant yours?
Well, I just planted them in little pots with good potting soil and wet them thoroughly.
Okay, and so it's really easy. You can put them down maybe half an inch to an inch down in the soil, keep them moist, and you don't need a green thumb for these. These grow pretty easily. Now, what about making tea? Because I'm looking at these plants. I don't want to take the leaves off just yet because they're too small.
Well,
but what about making tea?
Okay, first of all, I ordered some organic Moringa powder, and I would consider it on a scale of 0 to 10, a good 6. But then my friend who introduced me to this sent me ZIJA Core Moringa Super Mix, and wow, I give that a 10. And I have now collected a few dozen articles on the widespread health benefits of Moringa. Now, this particular one includes the seeds, the fruit, and the leaves of the Moringa tree, and it just is energizing and just good, safe energy, if you will. And it just makes you feel good. I think it's got all kinds of. In other words, actually, I think if you don't take any supplements whatsoever, and I believe everybody should, this has adequate enough to a B complex and all kinds of antioxidants, 38 different antioxidants, etc. So this is the top of my list of food supplement recommendations.
And how do you spell that particular Moringa? ZIGA? What was the rest of it?
Z as in zebra.
Right.
ZIJ as in Jerry. A.
Okay. And is there more to it? Is it?
I'm sorry, it's the only one that I know of that has the fruit, the seeds, and the leaves.
Okay. And this is a powder?
Yes. It's about 4 grams. And you can mix it in 8 ounces or more of water.
Okay. All right. That sounds great. I'm looking forward to trying some. I haven't ingested any of this yet, but I'm looking forward to it. And I am really, really excited about this because this isn't something that's really hard to grow. It seems like it's really easy to grow. I think I'm going to have to put them indoors in the wintertime. And
my understanding is you can keep them trimmed to about 3 feet tall.
Mm-hmm. Well, that sounds great. So, okay, so anything over 3 feet, we eat.
Well, I mean, they'll grow to 7 or 8 or 9 feet, but you can trim them back and they'll regrow out of 3 feet.
That sounds great. Joe in Arkansas is with us, and Dr. Shealy, I lost my temper on the air one day recently, and because one of our class decided that he just wanted to use USA Prepares as a platform to just say whatever he wanted, way off topic, and I just lost my temper. And now I think just about everybody who calls in wants me to know that they're going to be on topic. Welcome, Joe in Arkansas.
Hello, Joe.
Hey, Joe.
Y'all there?
Hey, Joe, you there?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Did you hear what I said about? Did you hear what I said about being on topic and how it seems like everybody who calls in wants to be on topic now?
Yeah, that's pretty funny. That's great.
Well, I did lose my temper. And
Okay.
so anyway, Joe, how can we help you?
Can I back up a little bit on the earlier topic?
Sure, of course.
Okay. The electric cars, when they catch on fire, the batteries catch on fire, you can't put them out.
Hope you can get out of your car before it's all over.
So they've been known to catch on fire in the impound yard or on the tow truck. So they're teaching fire departments, on how to put these cars out, which is really to just let them burn down. Because you just put water on them, they're not going to go out.
Let me ask you this, Joe. Are you involved in fire protection? Are you a volunteer fireman or a professional fireman?
I'm a volunteer fireman.
Okay. I was when I was younger as well. And class, one of the things that you learn day number one when you're on site, fires are hot. That's the first thing you learn. And I remember having the hair on my knuckles singed. And just as an aside, the reason firemen's hats have that duck tail in the back is so that when you are in the midst of a fire and you are using a fire hose, there's water everywhere. And the water that hits the helmet runs down the back and it runs off the back of the hat, not down your fire jacket. So it runs on the outside. That's why it's like that. And the reason that firemen's hats have a point with a kind of like a brass, it's really steel, but it's brass plated, little point on the top front is so that you can take your helmet in your hand and use it to smash through glass. That's why it has that sharp peak on the top front of the helmet. Just two tidbits of information about firemen. So, Joe, I believe you're absolutely right, but electric cars aren't the only ones that catch on fire. Diesel does too, but not as much as gasoline. Gasoline is like number one best for catching on fire in an accident. Absolutely.
Yeah,
and
I'm sorry.
My concern is the heavy metals that are then consumed by the flame with the electric car batteries, and of course all the plastic, and all the plastic that goes into smoke that you get to breathe in while you're surrounding that fire. Pretty dangerous stuff.
Yeah, you took the words out of my mouth. That is our concern, is the plastic and how to approach these car fires, and to make sure we're upwind from this stuff that's burning, and try to do a 360 and before we do anything.
Well,
when you say that, you mean take a look completely around so you know what the situation is.
Yep.
When they convert to all electric cars, I'll get my horse and buggy back.
Yeah. Well, Joe, let me ask you this. So you live in Arkansas. Is that rural Arkansas or a city?
Rural. I'm off the grid.
You're off the grid?
Yeah.
Okay. So when you look at electric vehicles, do you see anything practical about them for someone who lives outside of the city in a rural environment? I don't. It doesn't work for me. But do you see any practical applications in the near future?
No, I don't.
I don't see any practical implications or indications even in the city, Vince. I think it's terrible.
Yeah. I was at Sam's Club in Springfield, Dr. Shealy, near your office on Sunshine, and so I was at the gas pump, and there was this guy that had this electric gas hybrid car, and naturally I can't resist talking to people even at the gas pumps. So this guy's putting gasoline in his electric gas hybrid vehicle. And I looked at him and I said, "Oh, those things use gasoline?" And he said, "Yeah." I said, I thought they were electric." And he said, "Well, no, I want to go to St. Louis. And it's a 3-hour trip and I can only go about an hour." So here's a guy that thinks he's doing a real good thing by having an electric/gasoline powered vehicle. But yet, if he wants to go somewhere of any distance, he can't without gasoline. And that is just the salient point, that you can't get the density in an electric battery pack. You just can't. And, it's not so expensive to generate electricity, but it's really expensive to store it. And let me give you an example of what I'm saying. So let's say you have a well. And you say, "You know what, but I don't need water all the time, but sometimes at night I want to get some water, and I want the well to have some water or pump up the water. So I'll have a big battery bank so that I can power this big electric pump to pump the water up 300 feet from a well." Well, there's another way of doing it. So if the sun's shining, you have a continuously operating pump, and you put the water in a tank overhead. So instead of storing electricity to run the pump whenever you feel like it, you store the water at a height that gravity will let it flow downward so you can use it. So instead of storing electricity, you store water. That's how you do it. I mean, that's the secret. And that's how municipalities do it. They put the water in these overhead tanks. And that gives it the pressure to come out of your faucet. But the bottom line is electricity is expensive to store. And then the ultimate proof of that is how cheap are electric cars? Not so cheap, right? They're really expensive.
From what I hear, when you go to charge your car up, if you're on the road, it can take 2 to 5 hours to charge your car back up.
Right. It can. And so what they're now doing, I saw a design of an electric charging station. So what they have is like a restaurant there. So you pull your vehicle in, and they've got some solar panels, and they act like the solar panels are going to provide the electricity to charge your car. Well, not at night they're not. Not on cloudy days they're not. Not when it's snowing they're not. And they have the restaurants so you can have a long leisurely meal for like half a day while your car charges. Joe, did you want to stick around?
Yes, today.
Class Dr. Norm Shealy's with us, and if you'd like to call his clinic in Springfield, Missouri, that's the central time zone in the United States, 417-351-5221, 417-351-5221. Joe in Arkansas is with us. Joe, anything else you'd like to say to Dr. Shealy?
Yes, Dr. Shealy, with the lemongrass tea, is it loaded with electrolytes?
No. I mean, it has, of course, a little bit of sodium and a little bit of chloride, but no, it's not loaded with, no. It has a lot of potassium.
Okay, that's considered electrolyte, right? Potassium?
Oh, yeah, and it is one of the best.
Okay. In a grid-down situation, what is your recommendation of like a protein powder or a raw meal powder?
I don't know that one.
Okay. I just was curious what that
Let me see if I've got... I think what he's asking, Dr. Shealy, is when times get tough, if you're going to store a protein powder in advance or food in advance.
That would be whey.
What do you recommend? Yes.
Whey protein.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the best. I take that every day.
Okay. So, sounds good, guys. I appreciate it. You guys have a great day.
And you, thank
Joe, thank you so much. Thank you for being with us. That was Joe in Arkansas. Class, if you'd like to call in, we'll pay for the call. 866-582-9933, 866-582-9933. Dr. Shealy, there was some alcohol poisoning in Costa Rica. It's suspected of killing at least 19 people.
Wow.
Recently. So, yeah, and here's what happened. This is quite unbelievable. According to CBS News, Costa Rica has issued a national alert about tainted alcohol. 19 people were confirmed to have died over the past few weeks from methanol poisoning. And the government says that several brands have been tainted with methanol, a poisonous alcohol found in solvents and antifreeze. And it's wood alcohol, class. That's what methanol is. That's the
very poison.
It's not. Yeah, it's. Well, you've heard of alcoholics, on the street drinking wood alcohol because they had to have alcohol and they went blind from it. You've heard those stories. So there are about 30,000 bottles of alcohol suspected to be poisoned under various names. I'm just going to read a few of them. Garo Montano, Garo Grand Apache, another one is Molotov, something or other. So there are several brands. You can look it up on CBS News. I don't have a website up because we've been just brutally attacked by the trolls. So I took down the website, for now. And if they behave, then I'll put it back up. But they were calling our instructors because I had the contact information on the website for our instructors. I thought it was a public service where, if people really wanted to talk to our instructors, they could. The instructors would provide the contact information. But then the trolls started calling our instructors and harassing them. So I took down the website. So maybe someday I'll put it back on. But why? It's because of the few trolls who just are miserable. And so they made it difficult for everyone to get in touch with our instructors because I refuse to allow them to have easy access to our instructors' contact information to get our instructors beat up for what? For volunteering to be on the air and sharing their information? That's what happened. So, Dr. Shealy, methanol alcohol.
Very poison.
What can you tell us about that? What does it do? How does it kill us?
Well, I mean, it's totally poison to the entire nervous system, like the brain. And it comes from wood instead of from grains or grapes or whatever. And it's been known to be poison since we've known almost anything about alcohol. Those companies should be toasted in public square, in an electric chair or caned to death. I mean, that's absolutely unacceptable. That is murder.
Yeah, and so what that does to me is I look at this and I say, well, now everything is suspect, and that may be wrong, but my opinion is, okay, if some sealed containers of allegedly legitimate alcohol for drinking is tainted, then I'm not going to want any alcohol of any kind, whether it's sealed or not. I mean, that's just the way I react. And 30,000 bottles, a suspect to be tainted, that's a lot. So, class, keep in mind that wood alcohol is a poison. And I've known that since I was a young child. I mean, they used to have skull and crossbones on the cans of wood alcohol. Like, don't drink this. It'll kill you. Dr. Shealy and I'll be right back. Everyone all set? Cocked? Locked? Hour number 2 of USA Prepares with Dr. Norm Shealy, normshealy.com. Dr. Shealy, I was in Springfield at the dentist's office, and I was in the dentist's chair, and I heard this lawnmower, this guy driving one of these zero-turn mowers, and he's racing up and down the lawn going at breakneck speed. And after the appointment, I got out, went to my old jalopy out in the parking lot, and the rear window was broken in a million pieces. When I say a million, it's probably an underestimate. It's more like 2 million pieces, literally into little tiny pea-size pieces of glass, the entire rear windshield. And yes, it's called a rear windshield, class. So the lawnmower guy denied it, and so I had to explain to him and look all over the parking lot to find the rock. And what happened was he literally hit this rock from maybe 40 feet away, and with the mower blades running at, let's say 3,600 RPM, bang, it's like hitting it with a really fast baseball bat, sent the rock flying, hit my rear windshield and shattered it. And there's a reason why I'm telling you this story. Because recently in South Dakota, there was a 28-year-old who was in the yard about 30, 40 feet from her, where her husband was mowing the lawn, and he sent a piece of something through the air and hit her right in the neck. And it just missed her carotid artery by just a tiny amount. So it could have killed her. The point is, 2 points to this. Number one, I see it all the time. There are these stone deflectors and debris deflectors that are typically spring-loaded on the end of the mower deck, which if a piece of debris comes flying out, it hits this and it's deflected downward. But it's kind of inconvenient. So what people do is they tie it up. So now there is no stone deflection. And what happened to this young lady can happen to anybody. Just like when the guy was mowing the yard or the lawn at the dentist's office in Springfield, he hit a rock and it shattered my rear windshield. Dr. Shealy, when that happens, what do we need to be concerned about? How do we handle a wound like that, a shrapnel type wound that is serious? What do we do? Because in this case,
if you're standing there when the person's there, you're going to have to put your hand on the wound to try to stop the bleeding. And of course, that in the neck, that could be difficult because you could further compress the artery and stop the blood getting to the head at all. So you're dealing with a near fatal thing if it cuts across the front of your neck.
And that's exactly what happened to this gal. And it was like just, maybe a quarter or half an inch from her carotid artery. So when someone is wounded like this, and this could be like a battlefield wound, what do we do when somebody is bleeding profusely and we're the only ones there?
You put your finger on the wound, and if it's in the arm or the leg, of course, you can tie a tourniquet above the cut to try to stop the bleeding. But you have to be careful not to damage the tissue itself where you're doing the tourniquet. It's a tricky situation.
When I was in high school, there was a first aid class that we all took. It was part of our normal course of study, and we went through the American Red Cross health book and first aid book, and we were told about tourniquets. And then I remember the instructor saying, "When do you loosen a tourniquet?" And then the whole class would shout out, "Never." Is that still true?
Well, no. That is, you have to have some common sense. I think I would know when to do a tourniquet, but I happen to know anatomy pretty well. Now, a person who doesn't know anything about anatomy should be careful.
Well, I'm thinking that if you put a tourniquet on a leg, you can destroy the circulation to the leg, and you can lose the leg or the arm,
exactly,
or the hand.
But you can also lose your life if you're bleeding to death. So
okay.
Everyone should have some kind of training in first aid.
Okay, and is there a medication? And obviously, what we're trying to do is get blood to clot, right? So to stop the bleeding.
Right.
Isn't that the point?
Yeah.
Okay. What are medications that would prevent or deter or hamper the blood from clotting?
Oh gosh, of course, rat poison, Coumadin, warfarin is at the top of the list, but there are a number of them that aren't the greatest. Remember, I don't know any chronic medication that I like.
Yeah, and what I was thinking is, so in an emergency situation, someone is not doing well and they're bleeding and they've just gotten a shrapnel type wound, and we get them so that they stop bleeding. Then we think, maybe you need some supplements to make this better. But what should we avoid? So yes, Coumadin, warfarin, aspirin. Would that be one also?
Of course. Well, yeah, but most people aren't walking around with heparin.
No, aspirin. Yes.
Oh, I don't need to
Right.
worry too much about aspirin as far as bleeding to death. Oh,
Okay, I was thinking as a blood thinner. Okay. All righty. Here's kind of an interesting story, Dr. Shealy. I was reading about it. And so we know that there's a drug problem. People are, I guess people can't stand life, so they want to alter the reality and put themselves into a comatose state or a semi-alert state, and they're using drugs to do it. And one of those drugs is methamphetamine. Well, in West Virginia, the drug crisis is so bad now that people are turning to an alternative form of methamphetamine, which would be wasp and hornet and ant and roach sprays. They are using insecticides as to make a synthetic type of methamphetamine. Extremely dangerous. People are dying. And where's the epicenter? Well, that is in Boone County, Boone County, West Virginia. And that's like where the intersection of Virginia, Kentucky, and Ohio meet West Virginia. So it would be in the southwestern part of West Virginia. It is so bad that the officials are trying to figure out how they can manage the increase in overdoses from the insecticide that people are making synthetic meth out of. Have you heard of any of this, Dr. Shealy?
Well, sort of, but, common sense is the uncommon commodity.
Right.
I can't imagine using insecticide spray anywhere on the body.
Well, yeah. If we don't want to use anything like that, and we have friends who are farmers. Maybe I shouldn't say it like that. Maybe I should say we know people who are farmers, and they literally will mix an insecticide with diesel fuel. They want to control the fly population. I'm serious. They literally mix insecticides. Yeah. Well, they have the health problems to prove it.
You can't fix that. That's stupid. They're stupid enough to kill themselves.
But literally, here's what they're doing, Dr. Shealy, and this is a good lesson for the class, to not do this. So literally, they buy a commercial insecticide that's sold at farm supply places, and they'll mix that with diesel fuel, the red diesel fuel, and they'll put it in an insecticide sprayer, one of these pump up 1 or 2 gallon spray bottles with a wand and a handle to release the spray. They'll pump it up and they'll walk in there where their cows are. They'll call the cows over and give them some grain or something like that, and then spray them in the face, the eyes, the mouth, the face. They'll spray them with this diesel/insecticide mixture.
They'll spray themselves.
And
that's stupid.
Well, they're breathing it, and when they're all done, they actually smell like they've been bathing in diesel fuel. I kid you not, and I'm not exaggerating. And these people have health problems like you wouldn't believe, and they're kind of wondering what happened. What happened? Geez, I used to feel really great, but after years of doing this and inhaling the diesel spray, the insecticides, they're not doing so well.
Well, they're too stupid to live.
It's unbelievable.
They deserve going.
And I don't know what to do. I'd like to go up to them and say, I'm just wondering, have you lost your mind? Do you know what you're doing? Have you thought about this? This spray that you're using will kill these flies on contact. Kill them dead, like instantly. Do you think that might have any effect on you? But no, I don't know how to handle it. I have said, we don't do that. We don't use that. We just tolerate the flies. And these are people who don't even live on the same farm where the cows are. Literally cows bring flies, but the cow poop does. But they don't even live on that farm. They live like 20 miles away. and they still spray the cows because they know that when the cows are annoyed by the flies and they keep swatting them with their tails, they don't grow as fast. So that energy is wasted. Instead of growing, the cow's larger to get more money at the market. The cows are swatting the flies, but they're poisoning the cows themselves. Here's an interesting story. I thought you might get a kick out of it. So we talked about the heat, and this really doesn't have anything to do with health except for the fact that the heat is dangerous and people are dying from the heat. So in Boston, it's hard to believe, but in Boston, the cops are urging the criminals to hold off breaking the law during the weekend because of the extreme heat. So they're literally, the Braintree Police Department put out a message to the, we'll call it the residents. Look, don't commit any crime this week. It's just too hot. Wait till Monday. I kid you not. Have you ever heard of that, Dr. Shealy? I can't believe it. The cops are literally saying, don't commit crime until it gets a little cooler.
Well, again, it's a strange world. That's the best I can say.
Yeah. Okay, so we've talked about Moringa. We've talked about Costa Rica and the methanol. We've talked about the synthetic drugs. Let's see. I'm trying to think of brain damage. Brain damage in children as a result of insecticides. Is that something that you have seen in your practice, or have you read about that?
I've read about it, but I haven't seen it.
Okay. We'll share a little bit more about that when we come back with Dr. Norm Shealy. Dr. Norm Shealy's with us. George in New Hampshire. Welcome, George. You're on with Dr. Norm Shealy.
Hi, Dr. Shealy. Hey, Ben. I just wanted to ask Dr. Shealy a question, if I could. Dr. Shealy, I know that there's such a plethora of whey protein products out there, and I was wondering, how would you suggest that what we could look for in the ingredients to discern between the good quality and the bad quality whey?
Well, the one that I like is a company called Now, N-O-W. They make both an isolated and a concentrate, and both of them are fine. Basically, I depend upon knowing something about the company, and Now products are great.
Okay. All right. The other thing I'll just say, and I know you gentlemen have things to cover, we know during Prohibition, I noticed you were talking earlier about the wood alcohol, and they had many tricks that they could extract the alcohol in such a way that it would be drinkable, although a lot of people died, I'm sure, from things. And I know, Vincent, you would know that, like a lot of the old-time Italians, like my grandfather, and probably yours as well, they'd make wine at home. And when Prohibition came, I don't think it really may have dissuaded, I don't think it dissuaded my grandfather, because in the old country, basically, wine was like water. In other words, they said the water quality wasn't that good. That's why they drank a lot of wine. But I'll just tell you one quick thing, and then I'll get off, is that in the Arab Emirates and a lot of the Arab world, they're very stringent on alcohol consumption. They'll outlaw it, and they take pains to make sure that it doesn't come in the countries. And they had a story many years ago that in the Arab Emirates, they were throwing a party, and these men had somehow tried to extract the alcohol from shaving cream, and they subsequently died after they drank the end product. So.
Makes sense. It makes sense. Yeah. George, and Dr. Shealy, my dad was a school principal, and he told me the story about this new student that came to his school where he was a principal. And the teachers were saying, have you seen, so-and-so? This young boy smells like he's been drinking. And so teachers would kind of pay attention to this one new student. And after lunch, he smelled like he had been drinking. And they're trying to figure out why in the 1960s that this young boy smelled like alcohol in the afternoon. And so my father started talking with the young man and found out it was really simple. It was really simple. His parents came from Europe, and they didn't drink water. They would drink wine most of the time, or wine diluted with water. So what the parents did when they sent the young boy to school was they packed his lunch, and they gave him a thermos with diluted wine. And they thought that was absolutely perfectly normal, because that's what they did. And it was normal, because it killed the alcohol in the wine, killed the parasites in the water. And they thought, well, we have parasites here too in the United States, but they didn't realize that the municipal water supply was so heavily chlorinated that most pathogens don't survive. So that's what happened, and it was just custom. And it was not a big deal for my dad. He didn't call the police and didn't shut down the school and none of that stuff. He just explained to the parents the way it is here, the way and that's the way difficulties were handled back then, before we got the government involved. But you're right, and I'm pretty darn sure that my grandparents on both sides, my grandfathers on both sides, I know they made wine. I have one of their wine presses from when they made wine. And the wine press came from Italy. It was imported from Italy, and I still have it. And it's about 100 years old. I have it here at the farm. And I know they made wine, and I'll bet you they didn't pay too much attention to Prohibition.
Well, I know that my grandparents made wine throughout Prohibition.
Here we are. Just a bunch of descendants of criminals. and you know what? It's none of their business what we do. It really isn't. And who do they think they are anyway? George, do you have something else you'd like to share?
I have one other question for Dr. Shealy.
Sure.
After the break, if that's
sure.
all right. Thank
sure.
you.
Please hold through the break. We'll be right back. And we've got someone else on hold. Dr. Shealy's with us in Missouri. George is with us in New Hampshire, and David's on hold in Illinois. George, please continue.
Yes, I have a question of a family. This was handed down to family. Was that during the influenza epidemic that ended up taking my grandmother and her nephew, who had come to visit from Brazil, where they had given a lot of the Italian people farmland for free, and anyone who would come at the time around 1900, they instead of one branch of the family coming to America as my grandfather did, his wife's, my grandmother's sister, went to Brazil because they gave them free farms, and if they would work the land. So anyway, but during the influenza epidemic, my grandmother would send my Uncle Andrew, who was probably the oldest in the family, as a boy, she would put like I guess a cord around his neck, and suspended like over his chest would be a clove of garlic. And I'm wondering, Dr. Shealy, if you could tell me, is there any legitimacy that type of treatment? And in the event that, as Joe from Arkansas asked, what to store in the event of some breakdown in terms of the health situation, the medical, economic economy going bust, that you might recommend that might be something that would be available and that people could use in replace, what wouldn't be available?
Well, garlic certainly is one of the great protectors of health and has a lot of good benefit. My favorite, of course, would be to be sure to have a pint or two of castor oil, because rubbing castor oil on your skin, various places, is the greatest detox I know.
I remember you said, Dr. Shealy, that one good way to do it was if you took a bath. When you got out of the bath, you dried off, your pores would still be open to smear good quality organic or pharmaceutical-grade castor oil on your body and then put on like a sweatsuit. And then you
that is the best of all.
Night.
Yeah, that is absolutely the best.
But was there any legitimacy to what my grandmother did in terms of the clove of garlic that was suspended, like I said, around his neck?
I think it would provide some protection, but not a huge amount.
Right.
Now, if you don't touch the other person, you don't spit on it, etc., cough on, you're probably okay.
Yeah. All right. On that note, then, I can just say that, all right, pleasure talking to you, gentlemen, as always.
George, just one quick thought before you leave. Dr. Shealy, do you think that what George is talking about, suspending a clove of garlic around the neck on a string or a lanyard, had medicinal benefits because of the oils coming in contact with the skin? So, meaning transcutaneous absorption of
Hardly,
the garlic?
But I think also, it would put some of those oils in the air around you, so that to some extent you're breathing an antiviral, an antibacterial agent.
Mm-hmm.
Makes sense.
Okay.
All right. Thank you. Pleasure as always, gentlemen. God bless.
Thank you, George.
Bye-bye.
Dr. Shealy, very quickly, castor oil, 1 drop in the eye, castor oil USP, US Pharmacopoeia, for the treatment of cataracts. Could you just tell us very quickly?
Every night. Both eyes, of course.
Okay, 1 drop in each eye, just as you go to bed. And keep your eyes closed because you're going to have blurry vision because of the oil. And how long do you repeat this process?
Well, minimum of 6 months, or till you know the cataracts are gone.
Okay. And is there a way that we can tell if the cataracts are gone?
No. That requires an optometrist.
Okay. Is there any risk to doing this at all? Let's say you have a cat or a dog who your veterinarian has said, no, he's got cataracts.
Yeah, well, I don't know about. I've had several people report using it on their dogs, and one was a goat. I don't know about a cat. You might not be able to get it to be cooperative.
Okay, but how about, is it okay to do it for a dog?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay. Very good. David in Illinois, you're on with Dr. Shealy.
How you doing? Yeah, well, a little bit late on the castor oil thing for the eyes. I wish I knew about that. Will that help for pain, eye pain? Help soothe the eye?
Well, I mean, if the eye is red and irritated, possibly, but I would want to know what's wrong before I use it for pain in the eye.
Okay. Okay. I was going to ask you, I haven't been able to call. My phone's always down when your show's on. Anyways, what about this coral silver for a medicine kit? I believe it's called. Maybe.
Colloidal?
Yes.
Colloidal silver?
Huh? And where could you get it at?
Oh, you can buy it on the internet. Argentin 23 is my favorite. Argentin, ARGENTYN 23.
And also, if you're very careful, you can make your own, but you need a total dissolved solids tester, and you can buy that on eBay for about $10. So you can test the number of parts per million of dissolved silver in water, but you want to make it without an electrolyte. So just pure distilled water is what you'd want to use. But don't take my advice. Do your research on the internet. There are plenty of YouTube videos on how to do this, if in an emergency, if you want to make your own. But I believe what Dr. Shealy is saying is that you just don't want to buy it anywhere because you could have the parts per million way off. And literally, people have turned themselves blue by making colloidal silver and overdosing on it.
That's my concern, is I was worried about the quality of the product by ordering it. Mm-hmm. Another question is, now, a while back there was a woman, I've been adding containers of whey protein to my supplies. Now, there was a woman that died from too much protein. I don't know the extent of what she did or what caused it. But is that an issue to worry about if you have a couple protein shakes a day, something like that?
Well, I don't, again, it depends on what her weight is and what her general health is. In general, the average person requires 50 grams of protein a day, and eating 100 grams is not going to hurt you.
Okay. It's, I heard you say last week about whey protein as GMOs. I think about everything does. I don't think we're going to be able to get away from it, unless you grow everything yourself. But
yeah, well, I particularly like whey protein. It has the quality protein, yes.
Yeah. So I've been adding that. Hey, you were talking about issues with tourniquets and things. Now, I had a situation, if you want to hear about it, at a school where I dealt with somebody with sever arteries in the arm. I hope I did what was right. We were at a school, the state school that I was going to talk to you about at some point on your show. We had a kid that cut all the arteries in his arm. Now, I tried to tell him not to pull out the glass, and I hope I was right, but he did anyways. And blood went everywhere. I've never seen so much blood. But I put a towel tourniquet on him, until the ambulance came. But I was the one that called the ambulance because the staff was too busy watching TV until somebody else showed up. And this kid could have died. It was shocking that they just went and watched TV. I had to fight the phone to take the phone from the one lady to call 911. Even the paramedics and the police were shocked. The paramedics and the police. Now, I'm a kid. I'm a teenager. And they're like, you should be working here. Because at the time, I was helping another kid in risk injury to myself to get him up through all the glass that had no shoes on. And the staff was watching TV. And the cops and the paramedics are like, I don't believe what's going on here. And they were just going to leave the glass and the blood and everything there. I had to clean it up myself.
Well, I obviously, you did the right thing.
But yeah, it was kept. And the sad thing is, one of the guys that finally came in, that guy's running another school. He wouldn't even look at the blood when I was cleaning it all up. Because you got kids that can't see, and I could see pretty well. And they're like, how could you do that? I said, you're going to have blood and glass. We're going to be calling an ambulance all night long.
David, have you heard of something called the Peter Principle? Peter as in the first name Peter? Okay.
No.
The Peter Principle, I'll just give you the thumbnail sketch of the Peter Principle. That is when someone is promoted to their highest level of incompetence. So what happens is, let's say a person has a job and, he's a new hire and does a good job, and the boss notices it and says, you know what, we need to promote him. So they promote him, and he does a really good job, at the next level up in the organization. He's doing a real good job. And the boss says, wow, he's really doing a great job. He needs a promotion. So they promote him, and then he does a terrible job. They go, whoa, looks like we went too far, so let's leave him right there. We won't promote him anymore. So we take a guy who's doing a great job, and then we promote him. He's doing another great job, and then we promote him again, and then he does a terrible job because he can't handle that third level of promotion. So what the companies do is they leave him right there where he's doing a terrible job. And that's called the Peter Principle. And if you look around, it's everywhere. And that's what you just talked about. You just mentioned the Peter Principle.
Yeah. Like when, you were talking about these people making drugs. When I first went there, my first actual night, they let these kids drink on campus. They were kids. These were kids. We were kids. There was kids passed out, couldn't even make it to the rooms in the hallways. But they were also doing a thing with spray paint, taking canned spray paint, and they were inhaling that nonsense. I couldn't believe it. They were inhaling it.
Well, and those teachers should be caned in public square. In my opinion.
Well, I wasn't supposed to talk about this stuff. Like I said, I think I told you before, I had to help get a noose off a kid's neck. I thought his eyes was going to bulge out of his head and his veins out. I couldn't believe it. And they kept it all quiet.
How does Friday sound? You want to come on the air on Friday?
Sure, yes, sir.
Okay. All right. So I've got you down for Friday. Both hours, you want those?
Sure.
Okay.
Nice.
I have no idea.
I'll let you.
Okay. We can talk about it before Friday, but you are now on for Friday class. David will be on talking about his past. And David, I don't know if your ears were ringing over the last few days, but I wanted to share this with you. I get phone calls from our instructors from all over the world. And the question that came up in the last few days is, how's David? I haven't heard David. Where's David? Is he okay? And I said,
you don't realize what's all been, you don't realize what's all been going on. Like I said, it took me over a year to get my ID. It took me 10 months to get my insurance, and about 7 to get my prescription insurance. Because they think I'm dead. Because they think I'm my dad.
David,
No.
I'll see you on Friday. I assume you've got the number to call in.
Yes.
So David will be with us for 2 hours on Friday. Coming up, David, thank you. Coming up, George in Mississippi, you're on next. You want to talk about knees? We'll do it. Class Dr. Norman Shealy's with us. And if you'd like to contact his office in Springfield, Missouri, 417-351-5221. 417-351-5221. And Dr. Shealy's website is normshealy.com. 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 George in Mississippi, welcome. You're on with Dr. Norm Shealy.
Good morning, guys.
Hi.
Dr. Shealy, in the mid-'80s, I had arthroscopic surgery, and they took the cartilage out of my knee. So all these years, I've been bone on bone. And I went to the orthopedic a couple of years ago, and he took an X-ray, and my leg tilts to the inside from the wear on it. So they gave me cortisone shot to help with the pain, which helped for a couple of years. And now I'm getting that pain back, and they said I should have a knee replacement. So I want to know if I get another if cortisone has any effects on the body. And I've heard that the metal that they use for knee replacements is toxic, and your general opinions on knee replacement.
Well, knee replacement is not nearly as good as hip replacement, but cortisone actually, although it may help the pain temporarily, is going to worsen the bone significantly. The only other alternative than a knee replacement is stem cells, and there are several places where that can be done.
Okay. Well, I'm more on the line of going towards the knee replacement. So is there anything I should look for?
Well, just somebody who's got lots of experience. He's doing that or to have, done more than one.
George,
Okay.
may I make a comment?
Yeah.
Okay. I had knee surgery when I was about 11. I probably had something similar to what you've had done. And I was in excruciating pain. Excruciating. With every step. And here's what I did. And it absolutely positively worked for me. I took cod liver oil. When I was growing up, we had some ducks in the backyard. And there was a freeze, snowstorm, and their legs were frozen. And they were unable to walk. And my mom heard this guy on the radio by the name of Dale Alexander. And Dale Alexander gave himself the name the Cod Father, C-O-D, Father. And he was talking about the benefits of cod liver oil. And I'd love to hear Dr. Shealy's comments about this. So what I did, what my mom did was she gave these ducks cod liver oil, and they had arthritis, very severe as a result of this. They couldn't walk. And after a real short time of being on cod liver oil mixed with their food, they were able to get around. And it really worked for them. So I took cod liver oil capsules, these little things that you can get at the Chinese factory outlet in a small bottle. And I would take them with food because Dale Alexander said, all you have to do is, take some cod liver oil with food. Now, this is nothing new. This is a remedy that's been really, really old. This is one of those historical remedies. And it absolutely, positively worked for me. And anyone who has had excruciating knee pain who's mentioned it to me, I said, well, here's what I've done. And I've taken cod liver oil. And within about a week, it seems to go away. And I'm not sure why. But many people have told me that I don't look as old as I am. And my skin doesn't have anywhere near the wrinkles of someone who's 67. And I attribute much of that to all the years that I've been on cod liver oil. I have a feeling it acts as a lubricant to the joints as well as other medicinal benefits, but I don't know that. But what I do know is that it absolutely, positively worked for me. Dr. Shealy, what are your thoughts about what I just said?
Well, I think it certainly works in children. I don't know at this late stage whether he can reverse it with something as simple as CAS, but it won't hurt him.
George,
Okay.
would you consider trying that?
Yeah, I would. Do you just pick it up at any place, pharmacy?
Well, I'll give you the name of a place. I hate to say it, but I'll make an exception in this case. Walmart.
Okay.
Which I refer to as the Chinese factory outlet. You can go to Walmart and you can get 100 capsules. It's about $3. And you might. And I'm not a doctor. I'm just saying, don't take a lot. Just take one, see if it works, and then maybe another one. Dr. Shealy, what do you think? How should he consume it?
Well, I mean, a tablespoon, I think, a day, probably.
Okay.
I'm sorry, we couldn't hear you. You're breaking up. Can you...
He said a tablespoon, but I'll give it a shot.
Or you can take it in the capsules. George, I want you to promise me that you'll call me back in about a week or two and let me know what happened. Would you do that, please?
Sure, I will.
Okay. Dr. Shealy, thanks so much for being with us. Class above all, honesty and integrity.